Hey guys, welcome to my channel. And like I concluded in my first video regarding my new series of reading, today the first book that I will be reading is going to be The Velvet Rope, and it's by Brenda L. Thomas. Okay? All right. So let me open up my Kindle and get ready to listen. All right, guys, so we're going to start with the prologue, okay? How could my life get any better? My family and closest friends were downstairs celebrating the groundbreaking of my new Club Tees, which will be opening in less than 5 months. This venture had been a long time in the making. Now that the official renovation had begun, I was ready. I only had 2 months remaining before I left my PR position at Platinum Images. There was no more for me to learn about putting deals together or matching up clients with sponsors. I made thousands of dollars for clubs across the city, sometimes even tripling their business through my savvy promotions. Who knew if this went well, I could open a club in New York, Miami, or even LA. I walked down the hall toward the closet where I kept clothes specifically for my nightlife. I knew exactly what I'd wear. Black suede knee-high boots with 3-inch heels and my red suede dress. Now you know this old school because we don't typically wear suede the way we did years ago. My parents had always told me that I'd be at the helm of some business. I had always been good at being in charge. I had to be the leader in everything, probably because it made up for my insecurities. I always felt that people thought I was too beautiful to be smart. To compensate, I always made sure my intelligence shined as brightly as the strange beauty I'd been blessed with. The first thing I planned to do after I resigned from my job was cut off this long black hair that hung down my back. I needed to look older, more cutting edge for my new role as a nightclub owner. Even though this nightclub venture occupied most of my time, the most important thing in my life was my man Malik. I was happily engaged to a man I was actually in love with. Not bad for a girl who came from a family of adopted kids. Hell, Malik was probably the only thing in my life that I wasn't in charge of. We usually met halfway on everything, and if not, he would make the final decision, and that was fine with me because he usually knew all the answers, except about marriage and children. He'd been ready to get married right away and start working on a family, but I hadn't been ready. The idea of being a club owner had begun to appeal to me, and there was no way I was about to let marriage and a child get in the way. I had Malik, and he was all I needed, so I turned my eye toward my career. My goal, to reign as Philly Queen of the Night. All right, Malik D. Skinner. I was so glad everyone was starting to leave the house. I promised my woman I would finish cleaning up while she got dressed. Tonight was important to her. It was also important to me because I wanted her new business as well as our life together to be successful. Tiffany and I fell hard in love when we met 4 years ago. She was feisty and determined to be a successful publicist. Initially, she wasn't interested in a relationship and definitely not marriage. But I knew if I kept at it, I would win her over. The first thing that attracted me to her was her beauty. It was sad to say, but a lot of the beautiful women I'd met over the years who looked good on my arm at company functions didn't hold a candle to Tiffany's beauty, and certainly not her drive. My woman was not only fine, but smart. Tiffany stood about 5.5 feet tall, with her straight hair, slanted eyes, and velvety black skin. She constantly had men swarming around her. I often teased her about being jealous of all the men, but she'd never given me a reason not to trust her. It was more realistic that I was the one who couldn't be trusted. Women, especially white women at the law firm where I worked, were always coming on to me. I only slipped up once on a business trip. It had been so tempting. Everybody had been drinking and mingling, and before I knew it, it was morning, and I was waking up in someone else's bed. But since then, I've been faithful to Tiffany. I refused to go into the marriage being a cheat. Tiffany was the perfect woman for me, and I didn't intend to lose her. And Tiffany owning a club was about the best thing for my career. The crowd that followed her would certainly come in handy when it came time for me to run for office. Tiffany knew practically everyone in Philly, from both the wrong side and the right side of town. She was a take charge type of woman, except when it came to something that involved me. At those times, she could be flexible, and I was dependent on that and her ability to keep a level head to get us through what was probably going to be our biggest hurdle, a secret I'd been keeping from her. I stacked the dishes in the dishwasher and put the recycle bin that was filled with liquor bottles from the nights out. Once the house was empty, I'd get to work on the brief I had to write for work and draft some letters. Being a senior litigation associate at Covington Myers and Levin was sometimes a nightmare. The payoff would be when I made partner. But before working tonight, I had to talk to Tiffany's sister, Camille. I wasn't looking forward to talking with Camille, but I had to get it out of the way. Camille had certainly never bothered me about it. She actually ignored me. But I knew it was a weight hanging over both of our heads. Though it might have been placed years ago. It might have taken place years ago. The results of our actions were threatening to be a devastating blow to all of our lives. If I wanted to keep my eyes on getting a political office in the city, I couldn't afford to have any dirt under my nails. Ooh. All right, so Camille R. Johnson. I slipped into Tiffany's downstairs bathroom so I could do my thing. Tiffany would have killed me if she knew, but after tonight, I wasn't going to do any more. It just made me feel so good, almost like I could fly. I was glad my parents had taken my boys home with them. I was hoping maybe I'd get lucky and be able to bring somebody home with me from the club later that night. That not having a steady man thing could be depressing, especially when the kids weren't around to annoy me. Dumping the contents from my purse, I searched for the tiny pill that will give me the spark I needed for the night. There it was in my makeup bag. I unwrapped it and set it on the back of my tongue, chasing it with a paper cup of water. Combing my fingers through my freshly bronzed hair, I admired my body in the mirror. I adjusted my bra so that more than enough cleavage was showing, then turned around to check myself out from behind. I rubbed my hands up and down my cocoa brown leather pants that fit my ass like saran wrap. My looks were sure to have all those girls at the club hating on me just because. Shit, it wasn't my fault that my skin was a creamy vanilla and I'd been blessed with thick, wavy shoulder-length hair that wasn't sewn in. I had no idea where it came from. What I did know was that men loved me. A little more lipstick and I was ready. All I had to do was sneak out before Malik caught up with me. He'd been leaving me messages sounding all desperate. Twice tonight, he'd attempted to talk to me, but there was nothing to talk about. It didn't matter. Didn't he know that you should let sleeping dogs lie? Why was he even sweating it? Someone was knocking on the bathroom door. Malik. I could hear his ass trying to whisper. Camille, are you in there? Camille, open the door. If he don't get off that damn door, he'll spoil my hide with his bullshit. I didn't get what Tiffany saw in his square ass anyway. I guess she liked the fact that he was a lawyer. She'd always been about status, and I'd always been about family. And when it came to men, I'd always been about me. Tiffany. I looked at Malik's picture on my side of the bed. His two-tone brown face was accentuated by a dark mustache and goatee. I loved that man, and there was no doubt in my mind that he loved me too. When I got downstairs, I planned to tell Malik that my mother and I had picked a date for the wedding. A June bride. That's what I'd be. Nothing too extravagant. Maybe about 100 people or so. Neither one of us came from a big family. I had a good network of people. Malik had been supporting me in my quest to open a nightclub, even though I knew he'd rather I stayed in the public relations arena or maybe went for my master's degree. But I wanted my own business, something I could control. Then there was my crazy sister Camille. If I could just get her to stop being so wild, maybe I would introduce her to someone really nice who would be accepting of her children and her. It hadn't been easy for her raising 3 boys with 3 different fathers, but she'd done an excellent job. She'd been quite loose as a teenager, which was how she'd ended up with 3 sons by the time she was 21. But our parents were always there for her, even though her life had turned out far different than they'd expected. She'd blamed all of her troubles on her biological parents, for whom she'd been searching since she was 18. Despite those wild teenage years, Camille had done well for herself. She'd gotten her bachelor's degree and was working as an account manager at the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Second to Camille was my girl DJ Essence. We'd been rocking the turntables in clubs from Philly to Los Angeles. I'd met Essence a few years ago when I was handling the clubs across Philly event. I couldn't believe that a white female DJ could work the tables the way she did. When she went on break that night, we shared a drink. She told me she'd been admiring me for a while. She noticed my style as I worked events around town and had been hoping to get the opportunity to work with me. From that night on, we'd been hitting the clubs together. With her on board with teas, there was no holding me back. In the mirror, I checked out my makeupless face and brushed my hair. I wish that I could wear more than lip gloss, but my skin was way too dark and I could never manage to apply the right shade of eyeshadow on my chinky eyes. I adjusted the belt on my dress, making sure it fit perfectly around my small waist. I was definitely not in a hurry to ruin my shape by having children. I wanted my breasts to sit up as long as possible, and I surely didn't want my hips to spread. It would be great to go without a bra tonight, but Malik would have a fit. All right, sitting down at my vanity, I took the time to carefully select my perfume for the night. Most women had a shoe fetish or a purse fetish. Mine was for perfume. Finding and selecting exquisite and rare fragrances, I never wanted to have the scent of another woman. I love the crystal bottles and the way the stem felt when they touched my skin. The soft, sensual floral fragrances of, I'm gonna go with Quercus Flares will be my scent for tonight. How will Malik ever resist me? I was ready to go out, but I had to admit I was feeling a little horny. After working late last night, Malik had disappointed me by falling asleep just when I was ready for him. Before we moved in together, we made love all the time. We couldn't get enough of each other. We'd both become so damn goal-orientated that sex had become an infrequent luxury. Maybe I could get Malik to come up to give me a quickie. No, I had a better idea. I do what he told me should be my specialty. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Give him something to think about while I was out for the night. Then when I got back, maybe we could engage in something a little kinky. Licking my lips, I realized that I was definitely going to have to add some more gloss. Malik. Camille, I know you're in there. I whispered against the closed door. We need to talk. No answer. Okay. I was getting paranoid. What if somebody else had gone into the bathroom? They'd be wondering why I was standing outside it, waiting for Tiffany's sister. But I was sure I'd seen her go into the bathroom and everyone else had left. I planned to wait right there until she came out. Hopefully Tiffany was still upstairs getting dressed. What the hell was Camille doing in there? I was just about to knock when I heard somebody coming, so I gave up and went back to the kitchen. It was empty except for the dog stretched out on the floor. I stepped over Bruiser's lazy ass and went back to cleaning up. Behind me, I heard a door open, and when I turned around, sure enough, it was Camille bouncing out of the bathroom. I knew she'd been in there ignoring me. What the hell was she so happy about? Camille, we need to talk. What the hell do you want? You know what I want. We have to take care of this thing. Malik, are you crazy? Why would you want to dig up some old shit? It's not so old that we can just forget it. Yeah, well, judging from that ring on my sister's finger, I consider the subject dead. Now chill out. Okay. Tiffany. The living room was empty, so I assumed everyone had gone. Well, everyone but Camille, that is, because we were riding to the club together. That's if she hadn't forgotten me. Malik was probably in the kitchen cleaning up. I doubted if my sister was helping him. Half the time I didn't think they liked each other. Camille was probably just a little too wild for Malik, and he a little too rigid for her liking. He was forever complaining about how she didn't take care of her children properly. If it were up to Malik, every woman could be my clone. Reaching inside the hall closet, I pulled out my short black raincoat and tossed it over the couch. I walked toward the kitchen, planning to whisper in Malik's ear what I wanted to do to him. I paused just outside the kitchen. I could hear strong words being exchanged between Malik and Camille. I couldn't quite make out the specifics. Their words were muffled. It almost sounded as if they were arguing. But why? And why was Bruiser growling? He never barked at Camille, and definitely not at Malik. Something was wrong. Then I heard Malik raise his voice. Damn it, Camille. We're not going to ignore this any longer. I have a lot at stake here, and I don't want this hanging over my head. I started to walk into the kitchen and ask what was hanging over my fiance's head. But something told me that if I listened a bit longer, I'd find out. Look, Malik, even if it is true, what can you do about it now? Just let the shit go. For starters, we're going to get tested. And depending on the results, we'll tell your sister. That's bullshit. I'm not subjecting Kareem to no fucking test. And you're damn sure not telling Tiffany. My heart raced as I tried to imagine what they were keeping from me. I was too frozen in my spot to walk into the kitchen. Was something wrong with Camille, my nephew? Was someone sick? Or even worse, were Camille and Malik having an affair? I held on to the bookcase for support as I continued to listen. Malik, if you tell her, you'll ruin everything. She's so happy with you and this club. You can't tell her. Not right now, I'm begging you. My sister was pleading and Camille didn't do that. Camille, you disgust me. Don't you want the best for your boys? This could work out. How? This is all about you, Malik. And what if he is yours? What do you want him to do? Start calling you daddy? My pulse quickened, and I felt myself hyperventilating. I couldn't catch my breath, but I had to move immediately and find out what they were talking about. I burst into the kitchen. Malik, what the hell is going on? Please, please tell me you're not fucking my sister. I begged, tripping over Bruiser as I made my way toward them. They didn't answer fast enough. They just stood there in shock. Without thinking, I snatched up the first thing within reach, the blender. Unable to remove the picture, I grabbed the entire thing, pulling the cord from the wall, along with its switch plate. I threw it at Malik's head. Tiffany, what are you doing? Now sit down so we can all talk, Malik shouted, ducking out the way before the mixture of pina colada crashed against the refrigerator. I told you not to do this, Camille screamed, her eyes wide with guilt as she covered her face with her hands. I don't want to talk. I want to know what's going on. Whose baby is whose, Camille? I said, fighting the urge to cry at their betrayal. Sis, it's not like that. It was a long time ago. My sister's eyes brimmed with tears. She was always so emotional and weak. It took nothing to make her cry. You bitch, get out of my house before I kill you. I screamed at her, too furious to listen to her explanation. Camille wasn't moving fast enough, so I looked around the kitchen for another missile. This time I picked up an open jar of Hellmann's mayonnaise and hurled it in her direction. It slammed into the microwave before landing in Bruiser's bowl. The dog scurried out of the way. Tiffany, just listen, damn it, before you go crazy, Malik pleaded. Hell no. You get the fuck out too. Scooping up the bowl of my brother's homemade barbecue sauce, I tossed it Malik's way. The bowl hit the floor, but not before the red sauce splashed and ran down the front of Malik's favorite cashmere sweater. By now, I was aiming anything I could get my hands on in their direction, including a bowl of pasta salad that broke the clock over the kitchen doorway. Please, sis, listen to Malik. I looked at her as my hand reached for the pineapple that lay half sliced on the cutting board. I threw that, hitting my sister on the shoulder. Bruiser was barking frantically, jumping up on me, helping to turn the scene into a chaos-filled nightmare. Camille tried to run out of the kitchen, but I grabbed a handful of her hair, spinning her around to face me. You low-life bitch. You'll sleep with anybody, won't you? I said, spitting my words in her face. Malik grabbed me from behind by the shoulders, pulling me away from Camille. She wiggled out of my grip and ran crying from the house. I ran after her, picking up our blues man statue on my way out of the front door. Just as she closed the door to her car, I threw the statue, creating a huge dent in the hood of her black Maxima. Next, it was Malik's turn. I strolled back into the kitchen where he was picking up the broken glass. I was going to kill him. You bastard. Damn it, Tiffany. Will you just sit down and listen so you'll understand what? Understand this, mother, I said, lunging at him with a pair of scissors I grabbed from the utility rack. He backed up against the basement door. You're going to hurt somebody. Calm down. I'm not calming down until you get out of my face. I hate you, Malik. How could you do this to me? Instead of moving out of my way, he tried to grab my wrist and take the scissors from my hand. I wrestled with him, continuing to jab at him with the scissors until I cut into the sleeve of his sweater. He pulled away from me and grabbed hold of my arm to stop the blood that came leaking out. He headed for the door, but I was still not satisfied. I looked around for another way to hurt him. Tiffany, you've lost your damn mind. Get out, you bastard, I yelled, throwing the plant that sat on the windowsill over the sink. But he was already gone. I rushed to the living room and slammed the door behind him. Bruiser looked at me, whining. What the fuck are you looking at? My eyes swept across the neat little living room that Malik and I had furnished. All I could think about was destroying it. I went around and threw every piece of framed art onto the floor, along with the statues and masks we collected. Within minutes, the downstairs was in shambles, but I was still full of rage. I went upstairs to the second floor, which we recently renovated. I knocked over lamps, swept all the bottles of cologne from Malik's dresser, and then moved on to my vanity. Without the least bit of hesitation, I used a wooden spoon to knock all my hard-found fragrances to the floor. If I'd had matches, I would have set the entire place on fire. My gaze moved to the phone when it started ringing, the sound drilling into my head. So I went through the house, and one by one, I yanked the phones from the sockets. Landline phones, you know those. We don't really have those anymore. When I exhausted myself and there was nothing left to destroy, I went back into the kitchen and found an unbroken bottle of Belvedere. I removed the cap, slumped into the chair, and gulped down its fiery contents. All right, y'all. So that was the epilogue. I'll be back for part 1.